Hi everyone. So I've actually come up with a new way to make fake baby poo. You know, this isn't for everyone, but with my new Silicone Oliver, I actually like to be able to change his diaper, things like that. The problem I've faced is I don't like using normal foodstuffs, so like your chocolate and peanut butter and things like that for to put in nappies. I just don't like using food like that. So I've come up with a new system, and this is basically what nappy ends up looking like. So very realistic. You can change the colour to whatever you want. At the moment I've got that lighter colour, but I use gelatin, so I'll take you through what I use. But if you have a look, like I can just, it's not coming off of my fingers or anything. It's actually, it's like a hard gelatin basically. Well, not hard, I can still like peel bits off. And it makes for a very realistic diaper change. So that's what the diaper looks like. So what you need, first of all, some hot water. I just use the water straight from the tap. I don't bother boiling the kettle. You need a little dish that is not going to be affected by food colouring. You need edible gelatin. So I've just used the Mackenzie's because that's what's available. If you can get it in a bottle rather than the sachets. You need cornflour. Not much of that. So get it in the smallest bag possible, or you know, usually most people have it floating around the house. And then food colouring. So I just used the Rainbow Foods food colouring. So just the 4 basic colours. Also need, you don't need them, a measuring cup, a measuring spoon, sorry. I just go with a guesstimation. And you'll need a toothpick or multiple, depends. I only use 1 and 2 spoons. So what I do is I take approximately probably a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of the hot water. So this is, it's cooled off a little bit now, it's probably at the warmish stage, you know, it's not burning my fingers. And then take the gelatin, and I put in to this much, probably what is 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I'm just going to sprinkle that in. The more gelatin you use, the, you know, obviously the more it'll set. The less gelatin you use, you know, the more runny it will be. So I give that a good stir. So the hot water helps it dissolve. So I'm just going to give that a really good stir in. Now, what I do, I take the yellow food colouring and I put a whole drop in. Actually, I'm going to do 2 drops. 2 drops of yellow. 1, 2. 2 drops of yellow. So I like to go for the lighter browns, as you saw in this one. You can make the darker brown, you just mix in more food colouring of various colours. I like the lighter brown, especially for my little newborn, because he's a little newborn preemie. So, you know, it's quite a fluorescent yellow at the moment, your typical yellow. Now I'm going to take the green. Now this is where you use the toothpick. You don't want to put a whole drop in there, so you just take the toothpick, get a little bit of dye on the end of the toothpick. You probably can't see, there's a little bit there. And then mix it in. Just put it in. If you want some more, just pick up some more. So it's just the food colouring that gets around the top, and you've got paper towel there to sit it on so you don't get food colouring everywhere. And that one's still a bit yellow for me, so I'm actually going to take a little bit more. Touch more colouring in there. Want a little bit more green. And you get quite a, I don't know whether I can really describe it, it's really funny off yellow basically. Yeah, you get a funny off yellow colour. So then I add in some red, same method. Get the toothpick, any red that's Just get a little bit on the toothpick and add it. You know, I like to add a fair bit of red. Red gives it that more towards brown colour. So mix in some red. And then lately I've also been adding blue. Blue is just the fourth colour. You don't have to add blue. Originally I wasn't. I am now, because I find blue just makes it that little bit darker as well. So you don't want much blue, because blue is a very powerful colour. Okay. So, there we go. That's kind of my colour at the moment. It's getting quite a darkish colour. It's still very yellow based, but you'll see it's at the moment it's kind of gelatinizing now with the gelatin. The gelatin has dissolved and it's gelatinizing. It's quite clear and see-through. So now, once you've added a bit of colour, because the colour does change once you add the cornflour, so you probably will change the colour. Get some cornflour. Now once again, I probably only use 3/4 of a teaspoon. You know, that's all I'm using. I'll bring it over there. For this amount of water, or maybe a little bit less. I'm going to put that back in the packet. You know, obviously if you're using more water, use more cornflour. It's a personal preference really. This is what I do, and then I give it a really good mix. Now at this stage, once you add the cornflour, it really starts to look like dark boogers. You know, when you've got a terrible cold and you have all that phlegmy everything coming out of your sinus, it's kind of like that. So it kind of looks pretty gross. But it gets rid of the translucency of it all, and you just want to give it a good stir, get rid of the cornflour clumps. Okay. So it's a little bit greener than it is showing up on camera, but there you go, it's no longer translucent. And now we add more colour. So I'm looking at that going, I want some more red. I want to make it more of a brown. So I'm going to add in a fair bit more red actually, a few bits of my toothpick. Getting there now. I think I'm going to add a little bit more blue. So then this stage is just personal preference. Now depending on how hot your water is depends on how much time you have, because obviously being gelatin, it will gelatinize, and once it starts to gelatinize into its own goopy self away from the walls of the container, that's when you want to add it to the diaper. And you know, you can do a few things with that. If you've got a Reborn, you can then because it's not going to ooze out the sides. Once it's set, it's not going to ooze out the sides, it's not going to wet anything, it's not going to, it shouldn't, and I haven't experienced it yet, it shouldn't stain much. So then you can put a piece of Glad wrap over it all in the diaper, and then, you know, attach it to a Reborn if you want, as opposed to a silicone doll. And no, I think I want it a fair bit darker. I'm actually gonna squeeze out some red. It's really not dark enough for me at the moment. It's too yellow. Okay. Alright, I'm going to play with the colour, and then I'll be right back, guys. Okay? Okay, so I accidentally added a little bit too much red, and as opposed to ending up with like a light poo brown, I've actually ended up with a dark one. So it's probably a little bit more green based than like your chocolate brown. And then what it's starting to do now, it's starting to gelatinize, so it's starting to like stick together itself rather than being watery and stick to the sides of the ramekin. You know, you can stick it in the fridge to increase the process. If you use hotter water, you'll get longer, but it's starting to to gel now. Okay, so then obviously Nappy. I open it all out, and then you can just lay it in. Now at this stage, as it's kind of starting to gel, some of it will still soak into the nappy. So as opposed to letting it completely gel in the ramekin, if you add it now and kind of rub some of it in, some of it will soak in and others will, like, other parts of it won't, and then that'll be like your chunky bits. It's still kind of like a gooey baby poo that, you know, gets everywhere kind of thing. There we go. So you can see, yeah, this is quite dark one. We've got the yucky, and it's kind of gooey. If I it's like all gooey, and some of it's soaking in. And then another thing I like to do for the full effect, this is just water with 2 drops of food colouring in it. I like to pour that in a little bit as well, because I have a little boy. I pour it at the front, and if you let some of it run onto what you've already made, it like gooeys it all up and makes it all like really yucky. And but I really like it. So it means that once it's set completely, it's all gelatinized together. It doesn't rub off on anything. You can touch it. It's like touching a harder set jelly, really. It's the same stuff that's in jelly. It's gelatin, of course. But there we go. So the camera might pick it up, but yeah, we've got some yellow colouring at the front there. So then if you want, you can lay a piece of Glad wrap in there. So what you can do is, if you're putting it on a Reborn, you can actually just put that, if you want, in the fridge. It'll fasten up the setting process, or just leave it sitting out and it'll actually all gel. Then when you put a piece of Glad wrap over that, you're not going to have any issues with any of it getting out or stuck to anything. Well, you shouldn't anyway. And so then when it comes to do a diaper change, it's quite a realistic one. So yes, it's really starting to gel now. Like at this stage it's still sticking to my finger. There we go. Just wipe some of it off. Just like that. So that's how I make fake baby poo, guys. So yeah, all it was is corn flour. Oh, refocus use. There we go. Corn flour, dye, gelatin, and some water. Just like that. And have a lovely day, guys. Bye.